Hello there, welcome back to Nerd.World Films, and in this Nerd Talk today we are discussing Tremors 2 Aftershocks. And if you're wondering if you are actually a regular viewer of any of these videos, you're one of very few people. I do seem to have skipped the first movie. I haven't. I've actually previously covered Tremors in another video, although if these are popular enough I may do another dedicated video and kind of update that one, because I don't know if it was my best work. But anyway, Tremors 2 Aftershocks, released in 1996. I absolutely friggin' love the Tremors franchise. It has its ups and its downs, but even on its downs, I still love this franchise. A series about Precambrian gigantic worms that eat people and cattle and can't travel through rock, but they dig through the dirt. They're insane. The premise is mad. It's B-movie monster time, but done well. The first film is a classic, and I don't think the second falls far from the tree. Maybe doesn't surpass it, but definitely I think is on a similar level. Of course, Kevin Bacon does not, unfortunately, return to this movie, but we do get the return of Fred Ward, and his only return to the franchise to date, as well as the return of the irrepressible Michael Gross in his signature role. And yeah, before we get started, please like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Tell me what you think about the Tremors movies, and if you do want me to go back and redo the first movie. And just side note, right? These things are Precambrian, right? Right, okay. I like history. Paleontology is not really my area, but I like history. Precambrian. The Cambrian period did not exactly have a lot of terrestrial life. What the fuck were they eating? It's always bugged me. Just because I overthink things and I want to overthink it, and I'm going to overthink it because that's part of the love of the movie world, isn't it? Overthinking it and talking about it. And seriously, the Precambrian, hundreds of millions of years ago, the biggest thing around was a sea scorpion. Actually, I'm not even sure the sea scorpions were around then. So what the fuck was this thing eating? What did it evolve from? Tell us, Tremors. Anyway, Tremors 2 Aftershocks picks up several years after the events of the first movie. We catch up with Earl Bassett, now something of a washed up former somebody who didn't sign the right dotted lines in the past and kind of squandered his money, now trying to run an ostrich farm for some reason. And dreaming about the better days when he, he has this poster up on his wall of this magnificently beautiful woman that he's like, is there to remind me of what he'll never have, and yada yada yada. So this dude Grady turns up, who's kind of meant to be replacement Kevin Bacon. He fails, but I do like his character because no one can be like Bacon. Sorry. I make myself laugh, and that's all that matters with this. Anyway, down in Mexico, I'm never going to try a Mexican accent again. That was my one and only attempt. I'm not doing it again. Down in Mexico, an oil company is being kind of targeted, seemingly, by Graboids, and it's stopping their operation. They're losing millions of dollars every day, and they're willing to give Earl and Grady a bit of pocket money to come down there and take care of the problem for them. They'll give them any weapons, anything they want, and all they ask for is some dynamite and some remote control cars, because really dealing with Graboids is all you really need. So they go down there, they start blowing up Graboids left, right and centre, and it's all good, and they're earning money for everyone they destroy. Where they were even told, if you capture one alive, bigger bonus time, because zoos. Plus, people want to study these things. I mean, you might say they're dangerous. I mean, ultimately they're just animals. They're not intelligent. They're smart, but probably not even chimpanzee level smart. They're not a threat to the human race. They're just animals. So, in theory, you could deal with them. Plus, human beings have lived alongside these things ever since we evolved. If they were from the Precambrian period. I mean, they've probably changed a little bit. We do learn in later movies there are subspecies. They're not all the same species in different geographical areas. Anyway, getting a little off topic again, and spoilers for future movies there. But anyway, these creatures have been living kind of hostilely right next to humans for a long time. They want to capture them because we don't really understand their life cycle, but in this film we're going to start to get a better understanding of it. We generally know that Graboids are blind, and they home in on Tremors. Roll credits? Anyway, yeah, and while hunting these things down, they realize they're going to need more firepower. They need some help. There's a hell of a lot of these things. So they contact the man, the myth, the legend that is Michael Gross. And he rocks up in a big military truck with every weapon the Mexican army could possibly have given him to deal with the Graboids. And the little group, that they separate off into two groups and they start trying to hunt them down. They even manage to capture one that they think is sick because it's eaten something that disagreed with them. So they actually get one alive. It's like, woohoo, yeah, gonna get loads of money. And then something happens to it. They go up to it, its body is splayed open, all yellow goop everywhere. And they're like, oh shit, it's dead, what the fuck ate it? They just assumed some coyotes or some shit initially ate it, but then they realised it looked more like something burst out of it. It's like a xenomorph, a facehugger got hold of the front of this thing and like burst out its little... Said, oh my god, that would be a horrible, I think I came across that online once actually. There's a picture of that. If I can, I'm going to put it on screen because it's cool, but that would be a fucking menacing enemy. It's like one of those old arguments. Who'd win between a fight between a xenomorph and a thing? Me and my girlfriend genuinely had this conversation the other day. So, right, you got a xenomorph, it's got acidic blood, it's extremely hostile, but the thing can mimic anything it touches, and every part of it is alive. So yeah, bits of it might be dying, but as it's converting itself into the xenomorph, would it not be then becoming tolerant to the acid? Or would they just kill each other because the thing would dissolve from the acidic blood, but it would actually kill the xenomorph because the xenomorph would never be able to do enough damage to the thing to actually kill it? What movie am I doing again? Tremors 2, right. So then Burt Gummer, out in his vehicle doing his Gummer log, is suddenly assaulted and accosted by these strange little two-legged freaks, which are kind of like a Graboid, but not. And we learn these things will eventually be known as Shriekers. They have primitive eyes that allow them to see thermal energy, and yeah, these nasty little fuckers reproduce like crazy. They get enough food, they spit up a clone of themselves basically, and they just breed and breed and breed. Each Graboid produces about 3 of these things on average, at least this genus it does. Usually 3 of them. Once it's basically gorged itself, basically the Graboid is nothing more than the larval form of these creatures that are then designed to multiply rapidly to increase their number and spread themselves out, which we'll get to in the next Nerd Talks about Tremors 3, about what's going on there. But in this film, these things they won't hunt after the little remote control cars. These things hunt less on vibration and sound and more on heat. So they attack engines and other such things. So it looks like they're deliberately sabotaging vehicles when they're not. They're really just attracted to the heat of the engine. At which point, people are like, right, we need smaller arms, but Gummer and the others didn't get all those kinds of weapons. They got high explosives to deal with the Graboids. But, you know, because this happens.
I am completely out of ammo. That's never happened to me before.
So now they're kinda fucked. And yeah, they end up being besieged by things, but they do eventually come up with a kind of insane plan to spray Earl down with basically flame retardant material and coolant to make it cold so it can move amongst them. They trap them all in a building and they set an explosive that gets them all sort of dead. After Gummer takes out their last vehicle with his gigantic cannon, which he got for ground penetration purposes because he wanted to kill Graboids, because shotguns and things like that didn't have the ground penetration ability, and he got this thing and it blows through. Yeah, it blows through one of the Shriekers, which they get their name, by the way, because of the noise they make. They send out sort of a heat blast. It's a form of communication, but while they're doing it they shriek. It alerts the others to the presence of their prey. It's also designed to somewhat scare their prey and incapacitate it and disorientate it just for a moment. It's not as effective as another genus that have a variation of this ability, but basic Shrieker, it's still an intimidation factor. It scares its prey, and it might help herd it towards others, and then they'll just rip it to pieces and eat it, and then clone themselves. They reproduce by mitosis, this particular group. And yeah, they managed to blow them all up, and then they managed to collect their reward. And in the side storyline as well, we get a love interest for Earl, this gorgeous woman who we eventually learn is the pin-up that he's had in his trailer all this time. Who could have seen that coming? I think my robot vacuum cleaner just activated. It did! This film overall it's as a stand-up movie to the first movie compared, because everyone obviously going to compare a sequel to the first film. It does stand up alongside its predecessor. It's a very good, enjoyable blend of humour and horror and a little bit of gore that produce a very enjoyable and loving homage to the first movie. It should be pointed out that the first few movies all use the same special effects team, and they don't rely very heavily on CGI. It's something that the next film, which I'll get into when I do the Nerd Talks on that one, does make a little bit of an error with. But this film, like the first film, relies primarily on practical effects, which I think most people will agree, depending on the movie. There are exceptions, of course, and sometimes CGI works better for a certain thing. But generally speaking, practical effects look better, they're scarier. My girlfriend, for example, Mrs. Nerd, she utterly hates stop motion and claymation, things like that, where you have like someone breaking leeks to sound like a breaking of a bone, and they bite into an apple to sound like a vampire bite and stuff like that, and they have like all the gore of things sticking out of you, they use plasticine and all that kind of stuff. She hates it. She can actually do it because she's quite good at special effects makeup, but watching it on a film, it makes her squirm. It's really funny. Anyway, getting off topic again. This film is excellent. Highly recommend the Tremors franchise in general, and as a completionist, always watch them all. Don't just watch the first few, which are the best, but they're all worth a watch, and this is a very good film, and it does live up to its predecessor, and in my, again, amazing, impressive ranking system that I like to give all of my Nerd Talks. I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 6, just on the principle that it doesn't have Kevin Bacon in it. We want Bacon back. Bacon. And side note, he was actually meant to return for a TV series that they made a pilot for that's never been released, and I really want to see it. I think I mentioned it in my previous video on Tremors. But there we go, that is Tremors 2 Aftershocks, released in 1996. I'm giving it 5 out of 6 just because I want Kevin Bacon back, and it's the first movie, so it's losing a point just for not having Kevin Bacon. They could have tried harder and got me Kevin Bacon back with this film, but all that considered, even with a knockoff Bacon wannabe, it's still a good film. It's still very enjoyable, highly recommended. And remember, it'll be alright. Soon be Christmas.
I just want to take this moment to thank you for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, please check out my social links in the description box below to Instagram and Twitter and others, and also is down there a link to my Patreon page where you can support this channel and the others as I try to grow this franchise and do this more regularly. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and bye bye.